Badger families. Welcome to our Badger Family Forum. My name is Jenny Schonsberg, and I am a part of the Parent and Family Programming team here at UW-Madison. Our office serves as a central resource for all Badger parents and families, and we offer a variety of events and services, including these Badger Family Forums. Whether you're joining us live or watching this event at a later time, we appreciate you being here and supporting your student and supporting UW-Madison. Before we begin, I would like to thank our partners at the McBurney Disability Resource Center for providing captioning for today's event. You can find the link for live professional captioning services in the video description below your screen. Today, we are going to discuss what is arguably one of the most exciting, impactful opportunities available to many students today. I'm, of course, talking about studying abroad. To get that comment section going where you are, if you're on Facebook, let us know if you studied abroad when you were in college. Let us know where you studied. And if you didn't study abroad, where would you study abroad if you could go back in time and kind of, partake in that activity. So would love to see the chatter going in that chat. If you have questions, comments, concerns at any point, you can pop those in there. We'll get into kind of our content. So here at UW-Madison, the International Academic Programs Office offers more than 200 programs spanning 6 continents for students of all majors. We are very lucky to have a number of their staff here today to answer your questions and talk with us about this wonderful life-changing experience. Thank you to all of you who submitted questions for today's session. We had so many questions, lots of great engagement. And if for some reason we don't get to your question, you can contact us at any time at parent.wisc.edu. That's our website. But you can also email us or give us a call. And so I want to start our time together by introducing our panelists for today's event. So first we have Susan Luckner-Atkinson. She's the Associate Director for Advising and International Programs. She works on advising practices and student services, financial advising and scholarships, diversity and inclusion, academic department partnerships, and health and safety at the individual student level. As an undergraduate, Susan left the United States for the first time when she studied abroad on a summer program in Mexico, and then studied abroad again on a semester program in Spain while still graduating in 4 years. Susan has been in the field of education abroad for over 20 years and has been very involved in national leadership roles. Next, we have Jessa Boucher. Jessa's a senior study abroad advisor with international academic programs. She manages a large portfolio of study abroad programs in a variety of locations, including Australia, the UK, Ireland, and New Zealand. Jessa traveled abroad for the first time as a freshman in college when she visited Germany with her family and studied abroad in Liverpool, England as a graduate student. Interacting with students continues to be the most enjoyable part of her job. And last but not least, we have Kim Kreger. Kim is a study abroad advisor with the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences. Her portfolio of study abroad programs spans a variety of locations and includes a large number of short-term faculty-led programs. Kim studied abroad in France during her junior year of college and enjoyed her experience so much that she returned to France after graduation to teach English for 2 years. She has worked in the study abroad office at UW-Madison for 4 years and finds a lot of gratification in working with students who go on programs that relate to CAL's areas of study, which includes health and nutrition, food and agriculture, biological sciences, the environment and business, communication, and society. So before we get into the questions, I just want to thank everyone again for submitting your questions in advance of our session. If we do not cover your question today, or if you think of additional questions, you can reach out to the Parent and Family Program. We are here to help. We are happy to help. And you can also pop those questions into the Facebook chat. Okay, now let's get started. So I think it makes sense to start at the beginning. We had a few families write in to say that they know their student is interested in studying abroad at some point, but they don't know where or when to start that process of research and figuring out what's a good fit. So what advice do you have for students exploring this possibility, and what should they be thinking about to determine how a program would be a good fit for them? Susan, I'd love to start with you.
Excellent, thanks. So it is never too early to start planning. We encourage students to consider their goals when choosing a program, including professional, academic, and personal. We have a Get Started page on our website that really helps them think through those, as well as consider things like program structure and other opportunities that they should be considering. One of my favorite tools on our website are our major advising pages that we've worked to create with academic departments. Those will include the best time for a student to go abroad in that major, course considerations that they should have, and questions that they should be asking, as well as a list of programs that have worked well for students within that major. Students should also think about their program type when they're thinking about it. So do they want to be with fellow Badgers and a family member? Would they rather be taking classes with students from that host country, doing a field school or research or internships? There are a lot of different options within study abroad, so they can think through all of those. We have programs that are offered anywhere from a week to a year and any duration in between there. So we have lots of different program choices for students that way. And we actually have programs all the way from when students first are coming in before they've even taken classes on campus here after they've been admitted as freshmen, all the way through to our professional schools. So there are lots of different program choices for them to be considering. And that Get Started page is a really good spot to start.
Thank you, Susan, so much. I'm wondering, this is a pretty broad question. So Jessa, Kim, do you have any additional thoughts?
Yeah, I'll jump in. I think, like Susan said, it's really never too early to start planning. So I think for parents and family members, we just want them to encourage their students to connect with us. Their best bet is to schedule a study abroad exploration advising session. So that's just a general advising session, which includes an overview of the study abroad process. It provides students with more information about how to narrow down kind of the programs that they're interested in from the over 200 options that we have available. And then it can also walk them through kind of just general steps to apply. So that really can get them started, and they're welcome to schedule a study abroad exploration appointment with us really at any point once they get on campus.
Wonderful. Yeah. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd really echo what Susan and Jess have said. And I'd also maybe add that students should bring up their interest in studying abroad with their academic advisor as early as possible, again, so that they can help build it into their four-year plan while still staying on track for graduation. And I'd also just really encourage students to have fun looking through the options on our program search page. Like Jessa said, there's over 200 program options, so it's a lot to kind of narrow down, but it's kind of fun to poke around on the page to get a really good feel for the different types of programs and locations that we offer. Another really great resource that we have on our website is the Return Student Network, which provides a list of students who have done our programs in the past and who have indicated that they're really willing and happy to be contacted by prospective students. And this is just a great way for students to hear directly from a fellow student about their experiences on the program, what it was like to attend the courses, live in the housing, et cetera.
That is such a cool resource. I did not know about that. It's just got to be so different student to student interaction than like you said, like a website or like hearing that hands-on. That's really cool. So another topic we got a few questions about was regarding that application process. So the timing and a little bit about like acceptance rates. So I'm wondering if, Jessa, if you could share more about the timeline for application and what kind of communication students can expect after they submit their application.
Sure. So this is a really common question. After students choose a program, they'll want to review the full details for the program on the program's webpage. And that includes eligibility requirements and information on the Apply Now tab, which will kind of walk them through the process. Eligibility requirements really vary between programs, and they include things like minimum GPA, class standing, language level, and more. So for example, some programs might allow first-year students to participate, while others might require students to have junior standing, sophomore standing. Some programs might require 4 semesters of Italian language, while others may have no language requirements at all. So if students have questions about eligibility requirements, they can be in touch with us directly to discuss specifics. The application deadlines also really vary based on the particular program. I would say typically most of our programs have deadlines the semester before the experience abroad. So right now, this spring, we're really working with students who have applied and been accepted for summer, fall, and academic year programs. In the fall, many students will be applying for spring semester programs, but with so many programs, it really does vary. That's generally true, but there are some programs that have applications due a year in advance. Many of our business program applications are due in the spring. I think typically March is their deadline date. So students really just need to check the program page of the particular program they're interested in to confirm when the application is due. Most programs don't have rolling admission, so applications are reviewed after the application deadline. I would say students are typically notified via email about 4 to 6 weeks after that deadline regarding their acceptance. It's sometimes difficult to kind of give specific info about how likely it is for students to be accepted to a program. Some programs are competitive, just meaning we can only accept a certain number of students on the program. So it's just, yeah, it's a difficult question to answer because it really depends on a variety of factors. We do really always encourage students to apply for their top choice program though. So, hopefully they're not necessarily taking this competitiveness into consideration when applying. We really want them to select a program, apply for that top choice, and then if they don't get accepted for some reason, we would work with them to find an alternative program that might work for that same semester or summer or kind of whatever duration they're looking at.
Sure, that makes a lot of sense. Thank you. What tips do you have then regarding how can they make their application strong? What are some ways that they can really stand out?
Sure, that's a great question. So we do have a section on our website that gives tips about how to make a strong application. I would say generally we tell students to start early. That can make the process a little less overwhelming the more time they have to think about applying and the steps involved and take their time with it. We also encourage them to explain themselves and their program choice. So why is this program going to help them achieve their academic, personal, professional goals? So obviously that's kind of tied into the starting early piece. If they start early, they can really intentionally start to think about why this program is a good fit for them and kind of, specifically why they're a good fit. I think also during the application process, we want them to demonstrate their preparation. We want them to show how their background and their experience makes them a good candidate for the program. And they should also use their resources. They can connect with our staff to just learn more about the program, to learn about the application process, to really ask those questions about kind of each specific question on the application that they might need help with. But then there's also the UW Writing Center and different campus resources that might help with the application, and also just friends and family. Sometimes our applications will require a couple of different essays, and it's always helpful to have someone read through those, whether it's the Writing Center or just a family or friend that's kind of, helping to review the content before the student submits the application. We also encourage students to finish by or before the deadline. So that's going to help when they're doing the application process. And yeah, like I said, we do have a little section on our website called Tips for a Strong Application page. So once students get around to applying, they can review that and connect with us to make sure that they're submitting a solid and complete application.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for those tips, Jessa. And it sounds basic, like finish by the deadline, but I think with all the conflicting kind of priorities of students, it has to be said. So
that's right. That's right.
Thank you so much. We offer many programs, over 200 options, but we still get questions from students who find a program that is not associated with UW. So it's in a particular field of study or something that they really like this program that isn't technically one of ours. I'm wondering if you have advice for students who are considering a program of that type. Kim, I'm going to have this one go to you.
Yeah, sure. That's a great question. So any program that is not associated with the UW-Madison Study Abroad Office is what we consider like a non-approved program. And students who want to participate on this kind of program should just be aware that our office doesn't really provide any kind of vetting, advising, or support for these types of opportunities. So unlike on the programs that we offer, a student on a non-approved program is not guaranteed that their credit will transfer back to UW-Madison and would need to work with the registrar's office to request transfer credit upon completion of that program. Financial aid and UW-Madison scholarships may also not be applied to these types of programs either. It's also important to note that if a student participates on a non-approved program during the fall or spring semester or even during the academic year, they are not actually considered a UW-Madison student for the duration of their program and would need to apply for reentry in order to return to UW-Madison and continue their studies here. So we do have a page on our website with more information and frequently asked questions about participation on non-approved programs.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you so much. This was a lot of great information. And so much of this process is dependent on the student, and it's really student driven. What role can family members play in supporting their students during this process? Oh, it's Susan. I'm going to direct this one to you. Sorry.
Sounds great. I'm happy to answer this one. So parents and family obviously play a really pivotal role with students and play a really good support role. So one thing that we always like to say is study abroad is really different at every institution and university or college. And so some of you may have studied abroad or had other children study abroad at other places or friends, or it might be the first time you're thinking about study abroad. And so one of the things that we like to give as advice is to really empower your student to take the lead with this. And the reason we say that with the program details and everything else is because when they're abroad, they might not be able to reach you right away. You might not want that call at 2 a.m. And it really helps them think through how they're going to handle the process when they go abroad. But we have to give you lots of different resources too, and we have lots of resources for you. And so we actually have created conversation starters for you for every step of the process. And one of the best things that you can do is ask your student questions, because that starts to get them thinking about different things. And so we have those conversation starters from program selection and application through acceptance, pre-departure preparation, when your student's on site, and even when they return, because the study abroad process continues even after they're back and students are still processing their experiences then. In most cases, our office chooses to communicate with the students directly first and then encourages you to ask them to share that information with them. But of course, we have lots of resources on our website that are available for everyone to review as well.
Great. Thank you so much, Susan. I've looked at those conversation questions and they're phenomenal. They're so good. So I love that. And now I know about that resource and can tap into that when we get parents and families calling us, because it's a really great site and really well thought out. But this is a question that I imagine you get a lot. So I'd love to hear our other panelists' thoughts as well. Jessa, what do you think? What would you like to add about how families can support their student?
Yeah, so I think if we're thinking about especially that pre-departure piece as students are applying, getting accepted, deciding to participate, and then just preparing to go, I really think that parents and families, the more questions they can ask and to keep asking those questions, the better. Students are getting a lot of information during this time as they're selecting their programs, but especially once they're accepted and preparing to depart. And sometimes they just don't know. I mean, it might sound silly, but they just don't know what they don't know until you ask. And so I just really think that your questions can drive them to connect with us and find the answer, even if they already have it. That's really what our job as advisors is to help prepare students and support them while they're abroad. But they get a lot of electronic information and things to read, and it can be easy to miss some of these items. So I think the more parents and families are asking questions, the more students are hopefully motivated to find those answers, whether it's through the materials they have or connecting with us. That would be my main advice.
Yes, great. That's a really great point. Kim, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, I really agree that with Susan and Jessa, that kind of putting your student in the driver's seat while also providing support and asking them questions kind of to kind of find out the information that they need for their program is really key. Study abroad is obviously a really exciting opportunity, but it can also come with its own challenges, cultural adjustment, sometimes homesickness. So really empowering and encouraging your students to reach out for support and resources when they need it is really just a great life lesson in general.
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. Thank you so much. So we're going to pivot a little bit to our next kind of topic area. And so a student has decided they want to study abroad. They found a program they're excited about and they successfully apply. I think the next question families are going to ask is about finances and how much will it cost to study abroad? So my question is for Jessa to start. Does tuition change if a student studies abroad? And can you tell us more about additional costs that you may tell students to budget for?
Definitely a very common question, so I'm glad we'll cover it here. So our programs really vary in cost depending on a number of factors. So things like duration, location, if the program includes organized excursions, if housing or meals are provided and included in the cost, and even student residency status. So some programs may cost more than studying here on campus, but many programs will cost the same or even less than studying at UW. Students pay a program fee in lieu of campus tuition while they're abroad. And there is a cost sheet for each program, which is available on the individual program page. And students can access this, you can access this. It's on our website because we try to be as clear and transparent about cost, especially for planning purposes, as possible. So on that cost sheet, we list information about what is included in that program fee, as well as we estimate additional expenses such as airfare, local transportation, meals, and cost of living. So you and your students have a more complete picture of the program's total cost. When thinking about funding and just the overall cost of a program, we really encourage students to compare their budget in Madison to the program cost for the study abroad program so that they can really better understand the financial differences between studying on campus or abroad.
Thank you. Thank you. So kind of to piggyback on that, are there scholarships or financial aid available for studying abroad? And how do scholarship programs like Bucky's Tuition Promise, for example, how does that fit in when you're studying abroad? And I'll direct this one, we'll go with Susan for this one.
Sounds great. Yes, there are scholarships available for study abroad, and financial aid applies for most programs. I am on the scholarships committee, and we actually have just been doing awards, and it's one of my favorite times of year. Most campus scholarships can be used for study abroad. Bucky's Tuition Promise grant can't be used, but students who receive Bucky's Tuition Promise often are getting other grants that are able to be used. So it's just that one specific named grant. They should talk with financial aid to find out about that. The new Bucky's Pell Promise will be able to be used for study abroad. So again, it's really important for students to talk to their scholarship administrator on campus for complete details, because most campus scholarships actually can be used for study abroad. Something else that we encourage all students to do is to apply for the FAFSA, whether they receive financial aid on campus or not, because that can help with some scholarship decisions. And our office has a number of scholarships available, and we have a scholarships chart on our website that literally lists every scholarship we know of nationwide. And so we have local scholarships on there, some regional scholarships and national scholarships, and actually even some international scholarships. So there are a lot that there is available on that chart. We also do tell students not to consider a scholarship being able to pay for their entire program fee. So that's something that we really want them to be considering. We ask them to take a holistic approach similar to what they do on campus here. And so, as Jessa said, consider their budgets and program fees and comparing cost of attendance on campus with the cost of attendance on their program page. And that's listed right on that cost sheet. Completing the FAFSA application, applying for those scholarships, and applying for as many as possible. And then considering creative funding and, of course, savings. So we encourage students to do that whole approach. Our office hosts financial advising sessions with the Office of Student Financial Aid, and they actually hold drop-in hours in our office to talk with students about specifics for their individual cases as well.
Yeah, I know that this is such a tricky topic that's front of mind for folks. So it sounds like you all have a lot of resources and experience coaching folks through this part of the process. Before we reach our halfway point where we'll do a brief little interlude, I want to jump back. We did have a question submitted over Facebook. And so, Jessa, I'm hoping you can chime in on this one. This goes back to our conversation about how do they apply in that process? Can a student apply to multiple programs simultaneously to increase their chances of acceptance?
Okay, this is a really common question, so I'm glad someone submitted it. Our system only allows students to apply for one program per duration. So if they're applying or planning to study abroad and apply for spring 2024, for example, they can only submit one application for that duration. And it's really not meant to limit the student. like I said before, most of our programs are not competitive. I mean, there are some, but for the most part, if a student's meeting the eligibility requirements, they have a really good chance of being accepted to that particular program. So, allowing them to kind of compare and contrast programs, select their program, and then focus on that one application for the duration that they're looking to study abroad, we think is really kind of the best process for the student. I think students are sometimes concerned when they hear this because they think it will limit them, if they can only apply to one program, then if they don't get in, they're out of luck. And like I said, that's not the case. If a student doesn't get accepted to their first choice, we will work with them kind of on a one-on-one basis to identify what programs are still open, what are they still interested in. Like really, if they want to go abroad for that duration, we're going to want to make that happen. So rather than having the student submit 4 or 5 different applications and spend all that time working on essays and putting materials together for those many applications, we'll have them focus on the one. Hopefully they'll be accepted, but if not, we'll work with them to identify a second choice.
Wonderful. Thank you for ad-libbing that one for us. And
no worries.
Panelists, for all of your wonderful input so far. I just want to acknowledge we're about halfway through our event already. Time flies. And for those of you just joining us or who maybe joined a little late, I want to welcome you. We're so glad you're here. If you missed part of our event and you want to go back and rewatch something later, these sessions, as well as an archive of all of our previous Badger Family Forums, are recorded and available on the Badger Family Forum webpage, which is linked right here. I also want to remind everyone who is watching that we do provide closed captioning, courtesy of our wonderful colleagues at the McBurney Disability Resource Center. Links for professional captioning service can be found in the description listed below the video. And lastly, if you're tuning in on Facebook, please feel free to leave comments or questions. We've had a couple come through already. We have staff on standby there who can either respond to your question directly, or as you just saw, they'll pass the question on to us for clarification or follow-up later in the program. We welcome your feedback. And if you could just give a quick hello if you're watching out there, let us know where you're tuning in from. That would be lovely. We love to see how far and wide the Badger family extends. So give us a shout out. Let us know where you are. If we do not get to your question today, you can always reach us at the Parent and Family Program via our email address, the dedicated phone number, or our website. So let's move into the second half of our questions here. In addition to the research process and finances, the other area that families have a number of questions about is what their students' life is going to be like outside of the classroom while they're studying abroad. We touched on housing and a few of these things when we were talking about finances a few minutes ago, but I'm wondering, particularly that housing piece, if you could tell us more about how housing works, Kim. Is it assigned? Do students have to find it on their own? What kind of support is there for students when they're looking for a place to live while studying abroad?
Yeah, happy to take that one. And thanks. That's a great question that we hear a lot from students, since we know that housing type plays a really big role in the experience a student has on their study abroad program. And I know we've been saying this a lot, but the answer is it really kind of depends on the program. So on some programs, students will live kind of in a student residence hall or a dormitory, similar to the ones here at UW-Madison. And that could be with, either other students from the local host country, other international students, or depending on the program, other US or even UW-Madison students, or a combination of all of those. Some of our programs offer kind of more apartment style accommodations as well, where students are sharing an apartment with, a shared kitchen and bathrooms with other students. It kind of depends. And then on some of our shorter term programs, which often take place kind of over winter intersession or spring break or summer, students may be staying in hotels or guest houses or even at field research stations, depending on the program. And then I know we get questions often about homestays, which are certainly an option on some of our programs. And this is a really, I think this is a really great way to kind of provide a high level of integration into the local host country's culture for students who are language learners as well. Language immersion on those programs is really important at a homestay option. I was a French language learner in college myself, and I learned a ton of vocabulary by just playing games and sitting at the dinner table with my host parents and my host sisters, which was a lot of fun. So in terms of support, in some cases, the host institution or in-country partner will guarantee housing for students and will play a really big role in placing the students in their accommodations. While on other programs, it's sometimes up to the student to secure their own housing through resources that are provided to them. Again, it really depends on the program. But on each program page on our website, we do list the type of housing that is offered on the program, and we have more information under that Life Abroad tab on each one of our program pages. And actually, students can even filter by housing type on our program search page if that's a really important factor that they're considering for their study abroad program. And again, if they have like further questions about kind of what that looks like in terms of what accommodations are provided or how they're arranged, they can always reach out to a study abroad advisor that oversees the specific program to find out more information.
Sure, thank you. And before we keep going down the student life track, there were a few financial questions in the Facebook chat. So panelists, if folks have specific financial questions we don't get to today, what is the best way for them or their student to follow up?
I can take that one. We have a whole funding section on our website. So I'd really recommend that students look at that. If they have questions about their specific financial aid package, they can talk to anyone in financial aid. Heidi Johnson is our main contact in the financial aid office, and her information is on our website too. She sometimes fills up, but other people can help as well then. But she's also the one who does those funding information sessions, which we host both virtually and in person, and those office hours. And there are still some of those available this semester. And those details are all on our main page in the funding section. And so that would be the best place to go look.
Perfect, thank you. So when students are here in Madison, there are a variety of places they can go to for support. So they have their advisor, they can go to the Dean of Students office, etc. What does that level of support look like when they are abroad? And Jessa, we'll rotate you for this one.
Sure. So one of the big advantages of studying abroad through our office is that students do stay fully enrolled at their at UW-Madison while they're abroad. So they can continue to communicate with their academic advisor, other campus resources. Of course, we'll be communicating with them to support and consult with them while they're abroad as well. But that's, a huge advantage is they're not unenrolling from UW during their time abroad. They're still fully a student and can kind of take advantage of all of those resources. All of our programs offer support on site, but this can really look different from program to program. Some programs are very independent, where a student is maybe directly enrolling at a foreign institution and is supported by that university and their study abroad office. Other programs are more structured, where maybe a Madison faculty member is actually teaching on the program and connecting with students in the classroom, but also providing support outside of the classroom during their time abroad. So thinking about when students are selecting a program, it is important for them and for families and parents to consider what type of program type fits them best when they're picking the study abroad program. How much support would a student like on site? Do they like the idea of being more independent and really navigating through a foreign institution? Or do they like the idea of a more structured experience where lots of different details and activities are sort of built in automatically and not something that the student really has to seek out? This is something they can ask questions about as they look at different program options, and something that we really will go over with them quite a bit during that general advising as they're really trying to slim down program options. But yeah, very great question.
Thank you for that, Jessa. So as parents and family, one of our biggest concerns for our children, no matter what age they are, I have 5-year-old twins, y'all have your college students. We're always worried about their health and safety, right? So these concerns were some of the most submitted topics from parents and family via our question form that we had go out before this event. Susan, can you share more about how students can stay healthy and safe while they're studying abroad? And how does UW-Madison monitor worldwide kind of health and safety? And then lastly, in the event of some kind of emergency, what will communication look like for folks?
Yeah, thank you. Health and safety is a top priority for all of you, and it is for all of us as well. And just like on campus, all risks can't be eliminated. We can't eliminate all risks abroad, but we do take numerous steps to ensure that maximum safety is happening at every location. So we look at health and safety as a shared responsibility. That means that our offices and on-site staff alert students to any health and safety issues that could impact their program or their time, and it's the student's responsibility to follow that information, as well as to be proactive with their health and safety before departure and while they're abroad. So we provide significant resources to students, including a combination of online and in-person orientations before departure. There are additional orientations upon arrival on site, and then we are in constant contact with students while they're abroad as well too. All of the students get enrolled in an international health insurance plan that covers things that health insurance in the US doesn't always cover. And professional staff in our office carry a 24/7 emergency phone. So if something happens abroad, students are able to reach us in that health and safety emergency. We also work really closely with the university's International Safety and Security Director to monitor world situations and know what's happening all around the world. If there is an emergency situation, we'll reach out to the students first to notify them of any steps they need to take. Depending on the situation, we may also contact the student's listed emergency contact, although that is in a rarer situation. But if the event is widespread, we'll post relevant updates on the news section of our website, and there will be updates there continuously. In terms of staying healthy while abroad, it's really similar to what students should do here. They should plan to take all of their medications that they have for the entire time they're going to be abroad and not plan to get that in country. They should think through a plan if they have mental or physical health conditions that might need appointments while abroad, because we can actually help set those up before they go with our insurance company. And otherwise, students should do things to keep their wellness just like they would here while being abroad. So they should be physically active, they should be eating a healthy diet, getting enough water, and sleeping. You can encourage your students to try and find balance while they're abroad. Many want to experience everything, and traveling all weekend long and then studying during the week leads to students being very tired, and that makes you get sick sometimes. And so we would ask you to help encourage them to stay in their host community for some weekends. This can really help with stress. It can help with their budgets, their sleep, and actually getting more involved with the local community and being more integrated there as well.
I hadn't even considered that. I just assumed that their adrenaline kind of pulled them through their whole trip. But wow, yeah, if you have all these resources, you're tempted to soak those up and this opportunity, and you got to take care of yourself sleep and rest wise as well. So thank you for bringing that up. We had a few folks start to ask questions about logistics. So things like passports, cell phone plans, vaccinations. Is there anything families and students should keep in mind regarding these details? Or maybe there's other things that you have in mind that would fit in this category? But during these early planning stages, you don't need to get into the weeds. It's probably too early for that at this point. But I guess, or maybe not, maybe is there plenty of time for them to sort these things out as we get closer? Kim, if you want to take this one.
Yeah, for sure. We know that there are a lot of logistics to keep in mind when planning to go abroad. Actually, personally, I'm headed on an international vacation later today, so I'm in the thick of all of that kind of logistical planning and packing. So we always really appreciate when students and their families are being proactive and thinking about these kind of things. I'd say in terms of like advanced planning, if a student is considering studying abroad during their time at UW-Madison and doesn't yet have a passport, or if they have one that will be expiring within 6 months after the end of their intended program or their stay abroad, then applying for or renewing their passport is a really important first step. We've really been seeing increased wait times for passport processing, both during the pandemic and also now as people are returning to kind of pre-pandemic levels of travel, since many travel restrictions have been lifting. But some of our programs require that students have a valid passport in order to apply for a visa shortly after they confirm their participation. So in these cases, it's really just good to be ahead of the game. I do want to mention that IEP offers a free passport photo service, and students can sign up for a time slot on the Study Abroad website to have their photos taken on the third floor of the red room. So this kind of just saves that, $12 or $15 that you'd spend at Walgreens or somewhere else to get your passport photo taken. And as you mentioned, some programs require, a visa or maybe specific vaccinations. Yellow fever is one that comes to mind for a lot of our programs, both in Africa and South America. But it's kind of just good to know that the study abroad advisor for the program will provide more information and will work with the students on these logistics after they've accepted and been confirmed on the program. Some of the programs also do require that students are fully vaccinated against COVID-19, but that requirement will be listed really prominently on the program page itself. We also have lots of information about personal logistics, general preparations for study abroad in our study abroad handbook, which is publicly available on our website as well.
Wow, your website is just such a rock star, y'all. Thank you for all those resources. I'm learning so much today. So you can't study abroad without studying, right? So we have a couple questions about classes and credit hours and things like that, enrollment. Susan, can you share how credits work? Do they automatically transfer? Kind of those things.
Yeah, for sure. So any student on an approved program, which is any program you find on our website, comes back as in-residence credit, which means that it will get a course equivalent from UW-Madison, and it will appear on their transcript with a letter grade and will count into their GPA, just like courses they take on campus. The great thing with that is that it helps meet degree requirements for students and doesn't add on time for degree completion. And we have course equivalents for the different programs listed on all of the program pages in the academics tab. So students can see past course equivalents that students have been able to earn on those programs and see how it will fit into their degree completion and whether it's going to fulfill any general education requirements or if it's more major requirements or different things like that. So students are able to earn in-residence credit, which is one of the advantages of going on the approved programs.
Mm-hmm. That definitely, it seems to make things just more seamless all the way around on all fronts. But you kind of touched on this, but how do students find out which classes they can take while they study abroad? Should they plan on mostly those gen ed classes, general education classes, or will there be more of those in-depth classes for their major? Kim, I'm going to ask you this one.
Yeah, so I think I had a little bit of a glitch in my internet, but hopefully I'm still there. But that's a great question. So on each of our program pages, there'll be a link to information about the courses that are offered on each program, as well as a list of pre-approved equivalents so that students can see how some of the courses would transfer back to UW-Madison. In terms of general education or major specific courses, the answer really depends on the program and the student. For courses that would count towards their degree progress, the School of Business, the College of Engineering, and the College of Agricultural and Life Sciences, where I'm based, all offer programs that are specifically designed and selected for students in those majors. And those major advising pages that Susan mentioned earlier are a really great resource for finding lists of programs that would be a good fit and that may offer degree requirements for students in those majors. So some students are really looking to get those really specific major requirements fulfilled while they're on their program, while others may plan to kind of have a more open experience where they fulfill only or mostly elective or gen ed requirements while abroad. And sometimes we see students that use study abroad to kind of as an opportunity to explore something completely unrelated to their major, which is also a really valid choice. Because each student's academic progress is really unique to them, we encourage them to meet, like I said earlier, with their academic advisor as early as possible to kind of talk about how study abroad fits within that degree progress and also map out any courses that they may want or need to take while they're abroad. And then one last thing I kind of want to mention is that a lot of our programs include a research or an internship component, which can be really valuable both in terms of gaining hands-on experience, but also may count towards degree requirements as well.
I really love how you phrase that some students are looking for a more open experience. That just really resonates with me, that like I'm in this new place and I'm learning all these new things and just a whole new person while I study abroad. That was really well put. Thank you. Jessa, I'm wondering, do students typically then take the same number of classes while they study abroad, or do they pull back a little bit? And is the schedule more or less similar to how things are here structurally? Like you do a lecture and then labs and kind of that pacing throughout the week, things like that.
Yes, so you're probably sensing throughout our answers here, there's a bit of a theme. So it depends. It depends on the particular program, but generally I would say for semester and year-long students that are studying abroad, they're maintaining full-time student status. So typically, generally, I would say that does look like 3 to 4 classes. It should feel workload-wise similar to what they experience here on campus. But they're really adjusting, I think, to the local culture. For example, I work with programs in the UK, and the kind of way those classes work are often a little bit more independent, where students are having to self-motivate and do readings and participate without necessarily having pop quizzes or attendance or different things factoring into their overall grade. The grade at the end may be more weighted on a final exam or a mid-semester project, something like that. So, we just tell students, as long as they're kind of prioritizing and focusing on their academics in the same way that they would as they are, doing here at Madison, then really it will take some time to adjust maybe to the academic culture, and the academic schedule will look different, based on contact hours and things like that. But typically that adjustment is not so challenging that they can't get over it, especially if they're using their local resources and consulting with us as well. And then as far as our summer programs, those really vary. Like Susan said, I think earlier, our programs can go from 1 week to 1 year. So for a 1 week program, the contact hours and kind of the timing is going to look different as opposed to a longer duration program. So yeah, it really depends, but they are typically maintaining kind of that full-time student status, and that just looks different depending on the program that they're enrolled in.
Yeah, thank you. That totally makes sense. And kind of to piggyback off what you said with the summer, we have a question submitted via Facebook. Are there any programs that are still available for this summer? Susan, if you could handle that one for us.
Sure thing. There are very few, and it's mostly those programs for the incoming freshmen who are newly admitted. There are 2 that we call our launch programs, one in Japan and one in Ireland, which would be for newly admitted freshmen who would go abroad this summer for a few weeks with a faculty member from here. Those both have a deadline of April 15th, but for all of the rest, the majority of our program deadlines have passed. And that's so that we can do that preparation with the students before they go, so that they are ready to go, know what they're doing, and have the appropriate preparation before they're going as well.
Thank you. I'm just going to check and see if we have any other Facebook questions. So this one's related to financial aid. So I'm not sure who will want to take this one, but how might financial aid work for short-term summer programs?
I can take this one again as well. So aid works really similarly to how it does on campus. And so typically it's a 4-week minimum program with 3 credits over that time period, although students can combine that with on-campus classes as well too. So we sometimes have students do a shorter summer program, and then they do a study abroad program, and then they do an on-campus course as well for summer term. Another thing to keep in mind with summer is for our school, summer aid is a trailer. So it's at the end of the financial aid year for students. And so it's whatever aid is left for students at that time period. So that's something else that they should be thinking about. And then aid gets dispersed with federal guidelines 5 days before the program start date. So that's something that they can talk with their financial aid advisor about to make sure that the program would meet aid requirements as well for any summer programs.
Thank you so much, Susan. And so we've reached the end of our scripted questions and our Facebook questions. I have one bonus question that I'd like to throw in there, knowing that all 3 of you did experience study abroad. What would be like your favorite memory or a quick story you want to share about the impact of this experience on you in your life? Whoever wants to kind of jump in and chime in right away.
I guess
I know.
Well, it's funny because I did study abroad, but as the years go by, it's been further and further away. I guess I would just share that, working here in the office, When I'm, outside of work, kind of meeting people, and I talk about my job, I think one of the biggest things, I hear one of two things. One is, oh, wow, during college, I studied abroad. It was the most exciting opportunity. It was really impactful. I had a great time. Or people will say, oh, that's a big regret. I wish I would have at least considered studying abroad. And I try to share that with students because I think, of course, we're biased here in the study abroad office, but it really is one of those opportunities that we hope at least all students will consider. We don't necessarily expect every single student at UW-Madison to study abroad because it may or may not work just depending on a lot of different circumstances, but at least we want them to explore and consider the opportunity because it's just so difficult to get this type of opportunity once you've graduated and are kind of entering the real world and the professional world. To kind of study abroad and these different opportunities are very limited. So that is something that I hear a lot when I tell people about what I do.
Thank you. That's very well said and makes me sad I didn't study. Kim, Susan, anything to add? Fun stories, anecdotes?
Yeah, I mean, I think I shared a little bit earlier about kind of, my experience living with a host family in France, which was just a really great experience. But I think Jessa put it so well that like, these are really awesome opportunities that kind of have the opportunity to change your life path. And certainly for me, wanting to kind of work with students to kind of have similar experiences to the one that I had abroad is something that really pushed me into the field of international education. And it is just so gratifying to hear back from students who we work with. That maybe I had a student who emailed me last week saying, a course that she took abroad related to data management has really impacted what she wants to kind of continue to pursue here at UW-Madison and even beyond. So that kind of thing, I think it really is like a life-changing experience, and you just develop so much confidence, flexibility, independence, problem-solving skills. I mean, there's nothing like, especially pre-smartphone, which is when I was abroad, like trying to figure out and navigate like a foreign, train system without kind of having Google Translate at your beck and call. But even now with that, there's so many kind of challenges that come up that really push students to grow. I think that's really what we really enjoy with our jobs. And I'll let Susan chime in too.
Yeah, I would say really similar things. I had a little sister for the first time when I studied abroad. And so that was a really fun experience for me. I'm still in touch with my host family over 20 years later. So that was a great connection for me to have. I know that we've actually gotten a question in on Facebook about cell phones. And I think that's one of the biggest differences from when I studied abroad to when students are studying abroad now is they can sometimes take their phone number with them and either do a local SIM card, or they can do their plan here and just make sure that it works. And so when I was actually just traveling to visit some of our sites in February in Spain, I was able to use my local number, but in Spain, just by adding on an international calling plan with it, which was not something that existed because one of my favorite memories was every Sunday at 9 o'clock, my roommate would get a phone call from her parents. And at 10 o'clock, I would get a phone call from my parents once a week to find out what things we had been doing and what was happening, because that was the easiest way for us to communicate back then. And so study abroad has changed so much and communication is so much easier. But I think it's also a big thing to think about, like, how can we help students disconnect and also use the technology that's there for them as well, too. So when I think through study abroad, that's one of the things that I think through a lot with students, and getting access to communication both at home and with folks abroad.
Thank you, Susan. So we're wrapping up our time here. We got about 5 minutes left. So I'm wondering if any of our panelists, if you have closing thoughts or something we might have missed, just anything you'd like to share quick before we sign off.
Yeah, I can jump in. I think one thing that we kind of talk about in study abroad is often doing a lot of myth busting, right? Like, as a STEM student, it's going to be really hard for me to study abroad, that kind of thing. But one myth that I kind of want to bring up here is that a lot of students think that they have to speak a different language or, kind of be a language learner in order to study abroad, which is not the case. On the majority of our programs, students are going to be taking courses that are offered in English. And we do offer those really language intensive courses as well, or programs as well. And sometimes on a program, a student will even be able to take an introductory language course of the host country that they're in, but just so they know that you don't have to speak a different language. But again, I would just really encourage students to kind of reach out to us. As you said, there's so many resources available on our website. we're always here to kind of be that point person for students kind of at any point throughout the process. So we're always happy to connect with students either via email or through advising appointments.
Thank you. Jessa, Susan, either of you want to jump in as well?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Just really encourage your students to come see us, to make that study abroad exploration advising appointment, because we do have so much information on our website. It can be overwhelming at times. So really, I think for me as a student, I would appreciate kind of a one-on-one conversation with an actual human being, and we provide that. So please just encourage them to come see us. Our office is open over the summer. We connect with students both in person and over Zoom or phone. So really, like we said at the beginning, it's never too early to start thinking about studying abroad.
Thank you.
I would also just say, we also, as we've been talking about all of the different resources on our website, one of the things that we haven't touched on that we also have are identity resources. So for students with some different considerations to think with the different parts that make up their identity and how those might be impacted while they're abroad. And we actually have quotes from evaluations from past students about how their identity impacted them while they were abroad and what advice they would give for other students who might similarly identify. And so that's another great resource that I don't think we've touched on yet that I would encourage students to look at. But as Jessa and Kim both said, like, we are here to help through the entire process. And so students just need to come in and chat with us, and we are happy to answer any question, no matter how big or how small.
Thank you so much for that addition, Susan. I just need to spend a lot of time on your website because you all have like just everything. You've thought of it all. Thank you so much for your time today, all three of you. This has been wonderful. The chatter has been great over on Facebook. So just thank you for your time and your expertise. As a reminder to everyone watching, this session is recorded, so you can watch it again at any time at the Badger Family Forum website. And we have a couple quick announcements before we wrap up. The first one is that we are in Badger Family Spring Visit season. So every weekend in April, our team curates a list of free and low-cost activities that are happening on campus or in the Madison community for families that are visiting their student. And you can pop by. We have a fun little like office hours thing on Fridays where you can come say hi. It's not really a check-in, but we'll give you a free gift and some free coffee. Just say hi, put some names to faces. You'll get to meet me and Stephanie and Monica and all of us that you're typically interacting with when you interact with our Badger our parent and family program. So please check out the Badger Family Spring Visit website for more information about that. The next thing is that our next edition of the Badger Family newsletter is coming out next week. And so if you don't receive our newsletter, the link to join and subscribe is below on the screen right now. So parent.wisc.edu/join. Make sure you subscribe now so that you'll get that next edition next week, or you can, subscribe whenever. But lots of great things coming in that newsletter next week, including a recap of today's event. The last thing I want to tease is our next Badger Family Forum. So that one will happen on May 5th. We're trying to do these on the first Friday of every month from noon to 1 Central Time. So if you can start penciling that in on your calendar. The next Badger Family Forum is going to be focused on commencement and how you can stay connected. So continued connection with UW and the Badger family community. So we'll answer any of those lingering questions you have about graduation coming up next month. And then, once a Badger, always a Badger. So we want to talk to you about different ways that you can stay in contact, stay involved, the different benefits that your student gets to use beyond their time at graduation. Let's see. So again, I just want to let you know that if you have questions, if we didn't get to your question, you can always call us, email us, or visit our website. And we are here to help. We're happy to help. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and take care. On Wisconsin, everyone.